Well, let's move on now to our big focus this evening. Now, in a series of hard-hitting articles, the Business Standard has alleged that the Air Chief, Air Marshal N.A.K. Browne, has savaged attempts by Hindustan Aeronautics to build an indigenous trainer aircraft for the IAF and has worked to push through the additional purchase of 108 Swiss-built Pilatus PC-7 trainers at a cost of more than 4,750 crore rupees if these additional aircraft are ultimately sanctioned. The series written by Ajai Shukla also alleges that the Air Force had earlier diluted 12 benchmarks for trainer aircraft to enable Pilatus to win the original order for 75 trainers worth 3,870 crore rupees. In the process, basic pilot safety and the quality of training that rookie pilots would receive on trainer aircraft was compromised. This is the allegation. Appalled at what they say are insinuations of serious malpractice against their chief, the Indian Air Force has hit back and has referred to the articles as deliberately trying to mislead public opinion. They say the author has malified intent due to vested interests. Now, what we intend to do is highlight the arguments made by Ajai Shukla, the response of the Air Force, and then bring Shukla face to face with Air Marshal retired N.V. Tyagi, who was Deputy Chief of Air Staff at the time the Indian Air Force issued the set of specifications to allegedly benefit Pilatus. Also joining us, Air Marshal retired P.S. Ahluwalia, who once commanded the Indian Air Force's prestigious Western Air Command. Thank you all very much for joining us. Now, Ajay, the first set of points, right, that you have mentioned in your article, among many, was did the Air Chief exaggerate costs of Indian trainers to A.K. Antony, the Defence Minister, recently to ensure the additional purchase of Swiss planes? Now, you believe that yes, the numbers stated by the Air Chief to the Defence Minister in a letter written recently were completely exaggerated, and you feel that that intention of putting those exaggerated figures needs to be questioned.
I will not go into the business of who needs to investigate what. I leave that to higher this thing. For me, the figures are so dramatically wrong, and I've cross-checked this with a number of other people. First of all, the focus is only on the across-the-counter cost of the aircraft. Now, everybody knows that the life cycle cost of the aircraft, which involves maintaining it, running it, getting spare parts for it, putting it through midlife upgrades and so on, amounts to many multiples of the original cost of the aircraft. And everybody knows that when you're developing an aircraft indigenously, when you don't have to send it abroad or rely on a foreign partner for maintenance, repairs, spares and overhaul, it works out much cheaper. So the very basis of the argument, which doesn't mention any of these aspects and only talks about the across-the-counter cost of the aircraft, is flawed and dishonest.
So, is flawed and dishonest?
Yes.
And therefore, you believe, what do you believe the cost of the HTT-40? Let's just take a picture of the other plane we are talking about. Ajay, let me interrupt you. Let's bring a picture of the HTT-40. That's the HTT-40. This is the trainer being developed by Hindustan Aeronautics. It's not flown as yet, but that's what they're trying to develop. The Indian Air Force believes that yes, they may acquire many of these aircraft in the future, but for the moment they want to push through for more Pilatus aircraft. Right? What do you believe the cost of that aircraft will be, and what do you believe the cost of the PC-7 that the IAF wants more of will be?
The Indian Air Force does not question the cost of the aircraft itself. It agrees that the cost of the aircraft will be 32.7 crores, which is what HAL says. What the Indian Air Force Chief's letter does is to add on cost of development, to add on cost of foreign exchange inflation, to add on cost of interest and so on, and make that 32.7 crore rupee figure look much larger than what it actually is. So even the Air Force itself is not questioning that basic figure. What it is questioning is the add-on figures or cost of development.
And you feel there is dishonesty in that?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why there's dishonesty. Because the similar figure for Pilatus, which is across the counter figure, it does not take into account, or the Air Force Chief does not add on all the other added costs of training, of all the other things that add on to that.
Lots of points. Air Marshal Tyagi, the Air Chief was being dishonest in presenting the Air Chief with these figures, is what Ajay says in his articles. How do you respond, sir?
absolutely incorrect. That's how I respond, and I'll explain.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, the comparisons which have been given, I can't go in the, I mean, I wouldn't like to go through the figures, but essentially, HAL cost is for 2011, so it has to be escalated to 2013. Pilatus cost is firm and fixed cost for the delivery period, which means it takes the mean of the period and works out a cost which is applicable across the board for the throughout the period. Only variation will be exchange rate variation. It's not year on year escalation. So it pertains to a period which is not 2011 or 2013. It pertains to the delivery period. And if you escalate the cost of HAL 2011 to the delivery period, you will get a different amount. That is number one. The second issue is about other costs. There is one cost which is development cost, which will not be there in any buy. It will be there in any development cost. So it has to be added. That's the second point. Third point is that if you talk about maintenance, the figure of 10 times what is quoted may be correct, because this also MOD says it will be slightly different in various types, but even if it is correct, MTOT, that is the maintenance TOT, is being taken. This is a part of the.
So, bottom line, sir, the cost the IAF believes of the HTT40 being developed in India is 47.6 crores, whereas the PC7 is 38.3 crores. In other words, the PC7 is considerably cheaper, but you say that these numbers are wrong and that the PC7 would be how much more expensive than the indigenous trainer?
Over the cost of its lifetime, it would be at least 20 to 30 times more expensive. Just to give you one example, the MiG-21 was bought for something like 2 to 3 crore rupees. Yes. The early example MiG-21s, and over their service life of 30 years or so before they started being retired, many multiples, coming to about 50 times the cost of that aircraft. Foreign suppliers are very good at selling you something cheap and then getting their money's worth in upgrades, spares, maintenance, overhaul, repairs. That is where developing an Indian trainer and relying on an Indian manufacturer is
I
much
have got many more points. Briefly continue with this. You want to
like
quickly make a point on this, then we'll go into the other allegations.
Yeah, because firstly I'd like to say that it is totally unethical and not required to put the Chief of Air Staff on the firing line. It's a process. He's only representing many levels, many decision makers in the field, and he is only interpreting and putting forward the points that have been deliberated at air quarters and various other levels.
Wrong. The
That's
chief
number one.
has personally signed that letter. So
I
to
think
say that it's unethical and the chief is representing a certain viewpoint is incorrect.
This is very unethical, and I think we've got to refrain from this, because what happens is that down the line, as far as we are concerned in the Air Force, it is a deliberate attempt to put in wrong thoughts in the young pilots who are going to fly these aeroplanes. That's point number one. Point number two, I'd like to first go into the background. 19 fatalities of the HPT-32, 13 fatalities, 19 Cat 1 accidents. And one point I want to make before he shoots off something else, and that is that till today, the project report that is supposed to be submitted by HAL has not been cleared by the MOD for production of the same HTT-40.
Okay.
Now the reason for that, just let me finish that. The reason for that is, one of the major reasons is that the cost factor is not appropriate, and the cost will go up very high, and it is not a strategic buy.
There are differences.